This is the future.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, Green here and welcome to another video. Today we're going to take a look at all the Batman characters, and there's quite a few of them, and we're going to rank them from the worst to the best. And we're going to keep in mind mainly the raids and stories performance, because those are the two most demanding and most important modes in the game, but I will also take into consideration their performance in Arena and Champions Arena. Also, before I get into this one, keep in mind that I'll have sort of salvation on all of them just for the purpose of having smoother fights and being able to show more abilities. The fights that you're gonna see are going to be just for your viewing pleasure and don't have much impact otherwise. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe and like, and let's get into it. Starting off to what I think is, in my opinion, the worst Batman character, we're going to have Just Like Batman. So Just Like Batman, first of all, in terms of his abilities, he's not gonna do anything in terms of his specials. The special 2 is gonna have some dot damage, but the dot damage amount that it's provided is just terrible. And in terms of his passive, the second passive that makes him do armor pierce on his abilities after doing something is not something that you're going to use, or not something that's particularly useful. The only thing that's kind of useful about this character is going to be the fact that his passive will provide a shield that will pretty much deny the first ability that's used on every Justice League member of your team, pretty much giving all the Justice League members in your team Armored Superman passive. And the thing is, that's only going to be good in Arena and Champions Arena. You're never gonna see this dude in raids and soul raids. And even in Arena and Champions Arena, you don't really need this. And if you take a look at the options you have, you're most likely going to have a better alternative. Also, another thing is that he does synergize with just like Cyborg, that making him have very much damage on his basic attacks. And if you put a Flash in there, and the Just Like Cyborg is actually going to deal a lot of damage on his basic attacks, most likely dealing more damage than a lot of the characters on this list, but we're not going to keep that in mind, because even though you could this, it's gonna be literally your last alternative in terms of buffing something with Cyborg. Like, the only alternative where you would have him being the main damage dealer and Cyborg the support would be if you have no gears for Cyborg, because if you only got two Justice characters and one of them is Cyborg with gears, then you're gonna be using Cyborg, and if you got anything but this Batman, you're going to use that anything. So yeah, overall, kind of a worthless character, sadly, and the passive, even though decent, at times is just not good enough to make up for it. Next up, we're going to have my boy Batman Ninja Batman. So his abilities, in theory, his special abilities are going to be quite packed with things they do. So you might think, oh, this is a fully kitted out character, this thing can do a lot. But not really. The special 2 will provide you with a chance to do the special 3 for free. But the power difference between them is gonna be just 4 bars of power, and just to mobile, you're looking for to do a very high combo, to do a lot of damage with the special 3. So by doing the special 2 first, will pretty much be counterproductive, because you'll lose all your combo on that special 2, so it would be better off if you would just wait for the energy required to do a special 3. And when it comes to a special 3, it's gonna have a chance to stun, and the chance to stun is always going to be inferior to a guaranteed stun, so those abilities don't look too promising. The special 1 is going to be the saving grace of this character, and the thing that put him above in my book, compared to Just Like Batman, because it's going to be a hazard, like a tornado of bats, that's gonna deal dot damage and follow the enemy around and constantly blind them. That's gonna be extremely annoying to deal with if you're playing against him, and it's gonna be a very good tool for him to do well in Arena and Champions Arena. And his passive is going to be something that gives him some very specific buffs if he gets hit by some very specific things. And first of all, if you want crit chance, crit damage, all that stuff, you'd put them on your build, and you can't rely on getting hit by them to get them. And in order for that to activate, you need to get hit in the face. You can't block it. If you block it, it doesn't activate. This is one of the most useless passives in Just 2 Mobile, but the thing that he has that special one is gonna put him a little bit above Just Like Batman in my book. Of course, he does synergize with Batman Ninja Robin and Batman Ninja Gorilla Grodd, and if you would put all of them in a team and use him as a damage dealer, then most likely he would deal the most damage out of all the Batman characters on this list. But yet again, he's gonna be literally the last alternative that you have. You need to use Batman Catwoman as a damage dealer, or if you don't have Batman Catwoman or her gears, you will use Lord Joker as a replacement. He's literally the last place where you want to end up with your damage dealer of the Batman Ninja team. But with all that being said, let's move on. Next up, we're going to have our boy Classic Batman, and from this point on, they are actually going to start to be a little bit useful. So with Classic Batman, the main thing that he's going to do is the fact that he's going to blind on his special 2, which is good. That's a good thing, not the best thing in the world, but a good thing that he blinds on the special 2, and at the same time he has a passive where he power generates when he gets hit and the enemies miss, because they are blinded with your special 2. Amazing so far. Though sadly not that useful, and that's about it. That's how far the character himself goes. And those alone are going to put him easily above Justice League Batman in terms of arena performance, but he's also got something else that makes him more useful, which is going to be his passive. His passive actually, because he's got some more of them. First one is the blind passive that we already talked about, and other than that, he's gonna have a passive that's going to give a little bit more attack to your Batman Ninja characters just by being in a roster, not even in the team. If you own the character, you don't have to put him in a team, you just have to exist in your roster, and he's going to increase the attack of the Batman characters, and also will increase the rate at which they gain XP. The rate at which they gain XP is gonna be useless to you after all your Batman characters reach level 70, but after that point is gonna be quite, before that point it's gonna be quite useful. And also the attack, the additional attack is not gonna be that great because it's gonna be base attack, so it's not gonna be a huge amount. And at the same time, none of the Batman Ninja characters are really damage dealers, or at the very least the best damage dealers out there, but still useful all around to have in your roster just because of those passives. Next up, we're going to have Nightmare Batman. So what does Nightmare Batman do? Well, when you take a look at his specials, nothing. He's got quite cool looking specials. I mean, the special 2 has Batman shooting with a gun, the special 3 throws 3 batarangs. Looking very cool, but sadly not doing anything. But how did he make it so far onto this list while doing nothing? Well, he's got a passive, and that passive is first of all going to give you an advantage as you enter the fight. What is an advantage? This is the only character in the game that has the advantage mechanic. This thing is basically going to work the same as a freeze or a stun that's applied at the start of the fight, but it's not going to be a stun or a freeze in theory, because the characters that are freeze immune are also going to get hit by it, and the characters that have stun resistance are also going to get hit by it. So it's basically something that locks the opponent in place at the start of the fight when the fight begins, that has no way to be avoided. And that makes him a thing that is very annoying to deal with in Arena and Champions Arena defensive teams, and can also be useful when you're using him offensively. And the second thing is going to be that he's going to have a pretty high chance to reflect all the damage on basic attack hits. And by reflect, I mean that he's not gonna take any damage from basic attack hits, normal attack, tap attacks, swipe attacks, jump attacks. They don't do anything, and they are going to deal back the damage to your own characters. And that's gonna be something that can be very annoying, coupled with the first passive when you fight him in Arena and Champions Arena on a defensive team. And also, it's gonna be something even more annoying if he's built as a very strong tank. The only weakness that he has are abilities, special abilities used by the opponent, but the problem is, to deal enough damage with a special ability, you need to do a combo. To do a combo, you need to do some basic hits. And to do some basic hits, you need to kind of kill yourself against him. So yeah, one of the best tanks in the game, but that's about it. Totally useless for raids and soul raids. Okay, so from this point on, we're moving on to the big boys. All those lads are going to be useful in one way or another in terms of raids and soul raids, and that's why they are, first of all, superior to everything that was in this list. Coming in the number 3 best Batman character, we're going to actually have Silver Batman. So Silver Batman is going to have a special 2 that's going to stun the enemy, the stun bomb. And another thing that you'll see with all the 3 Batman characters that are in the first 3, they are the only ones on this list that have the same special 2. It's gonna be a very good one. It's gonna be a stun bomb with a very high duration. That can be used by Batman himself offensively, or can be used to set up a stun for Harley Quinn. On top of all of that, he's going to also have a passive that's going to give you some crit chance for your characters. And while crit chance is not gonna be the best thing in the world, because usually you wanna build it on the gears and not rely on it, it's gonna be great for characters that are not yet fully built. And at the same time, the fact that he's a Batman and the fact that he gives you crit chance makes one character in the game actually not put some crit chance on his build and get some crit chance from him, and that's Just Like Superman. Because in Just Like Superman Raid Team, you're going to have Silver Batman, because Just Like Superman gets buffed by having a Batman in the team, and at the same time will also benefit from the crit chance, so you might as well not add it on the gear and get 1 or 2 more attack rolls. So that's as far as Silver Batman goes. A pretty solid character. You can even use him to an extent as a damage dealer, but you're not gonna have as good of an outcome as with the top teams, but that's still an option out there. Coming in at number 2, we're going to have Prot Batman, which is, in my opinion, the best looking Batman in this list by far, at the very least when he is at level 60 gears. And at the same time, is going to be the most versatile Batman in this list. So look, his passive is going to be able to deal damage to the enemy characters, depending on how much health they got in total. He's gonna deal a burst of damage depending on their health, and he's gonna have a cool bombardment animation. That thing looks lit, but sadly it's useless in Raids and Soul Raids, and that really saddens me, because if they went back and reworked it and just made that work in Raids and Soul Raids and like put a cap on it, you would be so much better. But that's very useful still in Arena and Champions Arena. Now moving on to his abilities. Special 3 doesn't do anything but does a decent amount of damage, so you have the option of having him as a damage dealer still. Not gonna do the best thing in the world, but it's gonna be a budget option nevertheless, and at some point a few years ago he was actually one of the best damage dealers in the game, but sadly not anymore. Special 2, the same good thing as Silver Batman, stun and a very long duration stun, that yet again making him a viable choice for the Heartbreak Harley Quinn team for a stun setup, and at the same time making him good with that in Arena and Champions Arena. And the special one is going to be Armor Pierce and disable all the abilities of the opponent team. So in Arena and Champions Arena, this thing is going to straight up nuke your opponent, and if by some miracle they're still gonna be alive at the end of it, they're gonna have no specials to retaliate. And on top of that, because it disables abilities, it makes him a decent combo builder for Silver Banshee, because you disable the abilities with the special 1, and tag Silver Banshee for a special 3 that deals additional damage for each disabled ability. Even though he's not the best one of combo building for Silver Banshee, he's definitely a decent option and the easier to use option. So overall, Prot Batman, one of the most versatile Batman characters in the game. With that being said, let's move on to number 1. Coming in at number 1, we're going to have Arkham Knight Batman, the only legendary Batman and the first legendary character added to the game. So his special abilities are a little bit underwhelming except for the special 2. The special 2, the same good old thing as Prot Batman and Silver Batman, stunning the opponent for a huge amount of time. But his special 2 has something special. Indeed, he's better than all the special 2s of Silver Batman and Prot Batman, because it's gonna have a chance to stun bosses. And bosses sometimes have stun resistance, that meaning you can't use any stuns on them, but this it has a 50% chance to stun them anyway and not care about that, that making him the best Batman at combo building for Heartbreak Harley Quinn, that being one of the best teams in the game, and he's a stable on that team as long as you don't use Raven with it. And when it comes to his passive, it's going to give a huge amount of health and by default kind of max out defense to all the agility and tech characters in your team. And that also applies to himself. That also applies to Heartbreak Harley Quinn in the team that's used in Raids and Soul Raids. So that's all around amazing. It's gonna give you health and power as soon as you kill a character to the character that killed that specific character. Those are amazing, and it's gonna counter some abilities from metahuman opponents, stunning them after you do that, and well, that's very, very situational. It's something that I'm not gonna complain about him having. It's there, it does something, that's great. So yeah, overall, Arkham Knight Batman is, in my opinion, by far the best Batman character in the game. And that was it for the list. Really hope you enjoyed the list. Let me know in the comments if you got a different opinion, if you rank them differently. And let me know what's your favorite Batman character in terms of the looks of the character. But yeah, all that being said, that was it for this video. Subscribe if you enjoyed the video, maybe drop a like, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye!
This is the future.